What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Patrick here. Moving on to the next question. So suppose the interest rate on all deposits and loans is 4%. How much more is $5,000 worth to you today versus 1 year from now? And what if you don't need the money today? So this question here, I'm going to first show you how to do it manually, algebraically, and then I'll show you how to do it with the financial calculator at the end as well. So what's happening is if we draw on a timeline, here we have time 0, which will represent today, and then this would be time 1, so 1 year from now. So you can either get 5,000 today, or you can get 5,000 1 year from now. And we know that 5,000 today, $1 today, is worth more than $1 tomorrow because the $1 today you can invest and make interest on. The question is, how much more is it worth? So if we compare both of these, the 5,000 today, what's the value of it? Well, the value of it is just the amount that it's worth today, $5,000, the present value of it. We don't have to take this and discount it. So the value of the $5,000 today is just 5,000. Now, the value of the 5,000 1 year from now what do we have to do? We have to take that 5,000 and we have to present value it. We have to discount it 1 year. And we're discounting it by 4%. That's the interest rate. So it would be 1 plus 0.04, 1 plus the interest rate in decimals to the power of 1, right? Because we're only discounting it for 1 year. And so when you do this, you'd end up with $4,808 if we round to the nearest dollar. So that's the value of the $5,000 1 year from now. That's the value of it today. And so how much more, what's the difference here? How much more is this worth than that? Well, you take the difference between them and you would end up with $192. And so that's the answer to this question. And then they're asking, what if you don't need the money today? It doesn't matter, because even if you don't need this $5,000 today, you can just take it, put it aside, invest it, and then make the 4% interest. Right? So whether you do need it today or don't need it today, that is actually irrelevant, right? You would still always take a $5,000 today versus a $5,000 1 year from now. Whether you need it today, whether you would spend it today, or whether you don't need it, then you could just take it, put it aside, make interest on it. Now, this calculation here, we could have also got with the financial calculator, and so the inputs, so we have future value, present value, N, I, PMT. So the future value, because we're finding the present value of this 5,000, would be 5,000. The N would be 1 period, and then the I would be 4. The interest rate would be 4%. The payment, there's no payments in between, so this would just be 0. And then we're solving for that PV. And when you solve for it, you'd end up getting that 4,808. You'd actually get negative 4,808. So it's like you invest this and get that, right? So the positives and negatives in this particular question, it doesn't really matter. We're just looking at the absolute values. But just as a heads up, if you put a positive here, this is going to end up being a negative. If you put a negative, this would end up being a positive. But again, we're just taking that absolute value. So if you put a positive here, you get a negative. But over here, we're just looking at that absolute value and then comparing it to the 5,000 to get that difference right there. Right? So to get this value, you could do it algebraically, or you could do it with the financial calculator.